In this video, I'm going to talk about my process of learning a new jazz standard. So if you're just starting out playing jazz, maybe you haven't figured out a process. So if you're a more experienced musician, maybe you have a process. So please see if I have any holes, and there's things I'm always learning. So here's my process. It has about 5 steps. I'm going to go through each of those. And I find this way I'm able to learn a tune reliably for a gig, and I feel pretty confident in me being able to use what I know to play under pressure. So the first thing I'll start with is I don't start with the lead sheet. I know the temptation is to look at the chart and just read along. I found that that doesn't get me where I want to be as a musician, and I don't find it as reliable. So that's my first caveat. Don't look at music, don't look at a lead sheet first. I find the best musicians when I show up to a gig, there's this guitarist I always play with, and he always writes his own charts. Even if we play charts, we share charts amongst the group later, first thing he does is he writes down all his own charts. So anyway, I'm gonna go through my whole process of how I learn a jazz standard. So step 1 is I just listen to the tune. So the types of things I listen to first is usually like a vocal version. So something like Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra. If it's an old Broadway tune, maybe go dig up the original on the musical, listen to it, try to sing along with it. So this is just, what is my first impression of the piece? Is it a ballad? Is it fast? Is it, what's it about? What are the words about? I'm terrible with words. Some jazz musicians swear by memorizing all the words. I'm terrible at that. But if you can do it, more power to you. So, can I sing along with the melody? Just a very high level listening through. What is the basic form of it? Is it A, B, A? Is it, a modified blues? Just generally, what is the form? One thing I do when I'm listening and I'm on the road, I just count off. I try to just count the measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. And as I listen to the song, I'm like, okay, here's the bridge. Count off the measures. That's something you can do definitely away from your instrument. Just count off the measures, and that'll give you a very broad sense of the form. The next thing I will do once I feel good with that, then go to my instrument and try to just mark the chords. Now I might listen to something different. Sometimes these old recordings, it's hard to hear the bass line. It's hard to hear the bass player. Or you have bad headphones or something. So put some headphones in. If it's just my phone, I find the bass sound on there doesn't carry through on just my normal phone speaker. So plug some headphones in or play it through a bigger speaker, something like that, so you can hear that bass line. Because that's the biggest clue I have to what the chords are, is what is the bass player doing. So if we took, for example, something like Satin Doll, can I just play the bass line? Because that's going to be my biggest clues to what the chords are, is just starting there on the bass line. So once I can do that, just go through the whole tune, get out some paper if you need to, or if you can just commit it to memory, that's fine too. Just play the bass line. And then try to make your best guess what the chords are based on those bass notes. And you'll get better. I know it's really easy to go look at a lead sheet, but the skill you're building is going to be so valuable to you in anything else you do in music. Being able to take sounds and translate them into some kind of meaning, some kind of skill at your instrument. So again, if there's a section that you don't know, just move on. If you can't figure out the notes, get as much as you can. Sometimes I cheat. I'll listen through the tune, I'm like, I think this is it, make a good guess, and then I go try to look up a couple charts. Usually you can just Google the chart. And if it's a famous jazz tune, you'll be able to find it. And oftentimes I'm pretty close. I'm pretty close to what the chords are, just with a wild guess. I don't feel confident in it just with my ears, so I kind of need maybe that reassurance someone else hears that too. Okay, once I can do that, mark the bass, maybe play some chords, play along with the recording, and see if I can kind of get a gist for what those chords are. So step 3 is once I've established generally what the chords are and the bass line, I'm going to do my standard treatment. I've done this in my blues chord or my blues video. Root, third, seventh. Go through the whole tune, just root, third, seventh. You don't need to do any fancy rhythms. This is just getting used to how the chords interact with each other. So root, third, seventh. Okay, go through the whole tune that way. You can do it while the recording's playing to keep in rhythm, or you can turn a metronome on, something like that. Okay, once I've done that, bass and shell, then you could do bass, shell, and then sing it. Do da do do da 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 da. Okay, after I've done that, then I'm gonna do what I was doing with my right hand in my left hand. So these rootless shells with no bass, and then play the melody. If you're comfortable doing that, you can add more, right? Or 4-note voicings. That kind of thing, right? So rootless voicing, melody in the right hand. You could also do this kind of Red Garland style. Let's see here. That kind of thing. Double the melody in the octave and then add a fourth or fifth in the right hand. Okay, once you've done that, you could do, I mean, there's lots of other creative things you could do, more block style. Something like that, right? Find these different ways that you should feel pretty comfortable going through the tune. And that's before I even try to improvise on it. Just can I just rearrange and practice something really standard, just the melody, just the chords, in a bunch of different ways so I get familiar with how the tune goes. And then loop it through. Play it with the recording, play it with the metronome, just get really comfortable navigating through that. Okay, next step, step 4. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to improvise or learn to improvise or come up with lines over the whole tune. You could just take little chunks. Just take the A section or the first 4 bars, right? The beginning of Satin Doll is just a bunch of 2 5s. So 2, 5 in C and then 2, 5 in D. So you could just take okay, I could just run a scale, or I could do a more arpeggio kind of lines. Let's see here. Yeah. So the last thing, step 5, is transpose it. My feeling is if you can't play these tunes, at least in a couple keys, ideally all 12, but if you can't play them in a couple, you don't really know the tune that well, and you'll find holes in your understanding, hearing, and like how you think about the structure of the piece if you can't transpose it. So that'd be my last thing. And if you've listened to lots of recordings, especially vocalists, you probably already did that a little bit along the way. You know, listen to Ella sing it in one key, then Frank Sinatra sing it in another key. But you know, something like Satin Doll, all instrumentals or big bands usually are just going to be in C major. But if you're singing, it's going to be kind of the range of the singer. So there you have it. There's my process. Seems to be working fairly good for me. My 5 steps. First, listen to the piece away from the keyboard or your instrument. 2, learn the bass line. Mark the chords with the recording. 3, go through the tune with root, shell, melody, different kinds of shells, maybe block chords. 4, take small chunks of the piece and improvise over them. And 5, transpose the piece. There you have it.